Hi, everybody. We're back. Welcome to another episode of the Bo and Joe Show. We have a special guest tonight. Adrian Farris is tuning in and helping us cover the MLB. He's a sports expert as well and certainly savvy in the baseball world. But first, let me welcome back my co-host, Bo Dean. Bo Dean, I've missed you. My life has not been complete these last 2 weeks. How are you feeling? And how's life in Philly? And what have you been doing? Luckily, you've been laid up during football season, so there is a silver lining. You certainly had an excuse to lay back and stay home and recuperate.
Yes, I had an emergency episode at the dentist, and I'm feeling much better, and everything's good. Thank you very much. You were so concerned. You were like, "Oh my God, what do you need?" I'll. She said something like, "I'll Uber you whatever you need."
I said, "You're right." I said I would send it over. I was going to send over a care package, some chicken soup, but you declined. Maybe you were afraid of my cooking. I don't know.
So it's all good. Thank you so much. And Adrian was concerned about me too, my old college buddy. And so yeah, we're good. I'm good. Let's start it because we got a lot to catch up on. Let's do it.
We have a lot to catch up. I think you might have done it intentionally just to build some drama, getting us into 2 weeks. But we'll segue in. So I'm going to start because I know the NFL. We talked about a pregame. We did a little pregaming ourselves, and the NFL is probably going to be the predominant topic of conversation. But I don't know if you saw the story. I found this to be very compelling. There was a story, and I'm going to have to read it. There was a story released this week. ESPN released a story about it was a report released by the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports.
And down in Tampa. Down in Tampa, Central Florida, I think. I didn't, but they come out with it every year.
Mm-hmm. But this evaluated the racial and gender hiring practices of the media and the sports writers. And I found it very interesting. 79% of sports editors are white and 83% are men. They said it was dismal reporting in the world of sports media in regard to for women and people of color. 77% of columnists are white and 82% are men. 77% of the reporters are white and 82% are men. 77% of the copyrighted editors are white, 75% are men. I mean, I found those statistics actually startling. I knew there was a disparate not socioeconomic, but diverse divide in sports media, but I didn't realize how wide that gap was.
I think the doctor's name is Dr. Lipchick, something like that. But he's the guy down in Florida. I think it's University of Central Florida, and he does it every year. So basically what he did was he flipped the script. He would normally do it on the NCAA and the NFL and other pro sports, but looked like he flipped the script and did it for the media. And so his numbers are trustworthy. He's been doing it for a long time. He's very respected. And so based on what you found, what did they get? A C, a C plus, a C minus, or a D? What did they get? Did he give them a grade?
They may have given them a grade, but I didn't see the grade. But okay. I think that brings back into in my mind anyway, the forefront, the Rachel Nichols, Maria Taylor. So we're picking on one of the very few women where there are very few women in media, and we had to pit two against each other. We couldn't take one of the 77%, one of the males in that white males in that 77% and displace them. Instead, we had to displace one of the women. So that's a sensitive topic for me in any arena. But Justin is telling you, yeah, that's his name. You got the name right. And he's
thanks, Justin. That's my man, Justin. He knows it all. Hey, listen. That's the reason that organization, that guy and his group is the reason why the NFL now have done a better job with women refereeing and being involved in the NFL. From the referee perspective, right? They just had the first black female ref. She refed the Tampa Bay Bucks and Cowboys game. That's the reason why you're seeing lots of women earning the positions that they're getting in the pros and on the college level. That organization has been putting out numbers for a long time, and people trust those numbers. So it's working. It's working. Yep.
And Brandon's shouting out one woman in the media. Good evening, Queen Joanne. You two guys better be easy on the Coast to Coast Queens. So thank you, Brandon. So that's my story on diversity. I know that you have a few human interest stories. Let's delve into those, and we'll get Adrian into the conversation.
That was one of them. There's lots of women coaching in the NFL,
NBA.
So it's it's moving. There's progress on every level, from again refereeing, coaching, trainers, front office. I believe there's a woman who is the top executive for the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not sure what her name is, but I'm pretty sure that they have their top executive, their general manager, is a woman. So it's we're making progress.
Well, Derek Jeter hired the first female GM in Major League Baseball with Florida.
Leave it to
Marlins
Derek Jeter. Come on. Would you expect anything different out of Derek Jeter? He is what is he? He's like the prince. He can do no wrong because he's always where he's supposed to be at all times, on every level, from his decision making, everything. I mean, he's just if you compare Derek Jeter to A-Rod, it's hands down Derek Jeter all day. Right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think what happens is, with the diversity and wanting things to change much quicker, we get I guess we get a little impatient, and don't realize how much has changed. I mean, look at the NFL or college football. Can you think of a sideline reporter that's not a female?
Right. When it used to be all guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I remember very distinctly, even when those reporters came on the sidelines, even I thought they were, misfits. They were thrust into that. So, and of course, I wish they were in the front end, but I think that people thought that they were really a trophy, a token, and not genuinely sports savvy. And I think over time they've proven themselves. But in the beginning, I think it was such a novelty, and I don't think that they were in a position. They were mocked. They were on the sidelines, but they weren't positions of authority or respected in any manner.
I'm old enough to remember, Adrian, I know you remember when women reporters were allowed in the locker room, and it was a big brouhaha. Remember that?
I remember.
Guys was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And they had and they had to change. The guys had to, especially the football locker room. Again, a football locker room is different than a basketball locker room, and probably different than a baseball locker room, right?
Yeah.
So guys who understood what was happening toweled up, and then the ones who were fighting it didn't towel up,
right.
And they just made it worse, right? So, but we've come a long way. We've heard no stories, at least I haven't, in the past 5 to 10 years, regarding a female reporter going into the locker room and catching a guy, in his birthday suit, because they know better. And it had to come from ownership. Ownership had to get involved and say, listen, cut it out, stop being a knucklehead, and get in the shower, walk out the shower with a towel. If you can't do that, we're going to hit you with a fine. So, yeah. So we're making progress. No doubt about it.
We're making progress. And Brandon's telling us that the Buffalo Bills owner president is Kim.
Boom!
Yeah. And I don't know how to pronounce that last name. And Brandon has a question. What's our opinion on this? What sport will we see the first female coach in a male, and I assume he means head coach in a male-dominated sport.
Well, aren't we looking at San Antonio, right?
It would probably be basketball. I think.
Yeah, San Antonio Spurs. What's her name, right? Look it up,
well,
guys.
she's not a head. So the question, I guess, would be: are we talking about head coach, or are we talking about?
She's going to become, because remember when he's got what's the head coach? What's her coach? The head coach name for San Antonio Spurs. He's got kicked out a couple of games last year, and she took over.
Yeah,
right. And she was a WNBA player previously. She was a great college player. Somebody will think of her name. Unfortunately, I don't know it. But yeah, she's probably going to be the first female head coach of a men's basketball team, NBA, because she's been groomed for it. She's ready. It's just a matter of which owner is going to, be the Branch Rickey, right? And make it happen.
Yeah. I would say the one I would envision would be last would be football. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Not a head coach.
Not a head coach. Yeah, that's going to be a while. Remember, they just started breaking into women in terms of NFL. They're just started within the past 3 to 5 years. Started breaking in as trainers and then assistant position coach. Like there's no woman who is the head position coach. There's an assistant position coach. Most of them are women, but eventually they got to work through that process of being a head, the head of a position, and then work their way to be a coordinator, and then work their way to become the head coach. So yeah, there's some time involved in that.
And I think too that sport has always historically been less, more gender specific. I mean, there were always women and girls and playing basketball and softball and baseball, and now really co-ed football teams. Sometimes there's a punter, once in a while there's a quarterback, but there's certainly a wide gender gap in the football world.
Yeah, I think baseball's well behind in that too. I think the only person I can think of is I know the Yankees hired the first female hitting coach in their organization last year or 2 years ago. But other than that, that's the only thing I've heard in baseball.
Well, in baseball, we have our own Jessica Mendoza, which would be Joe, is our Jessica Mendoza. Have you watched? Do you know who Jessica Mendoza is? Joe?
I'm going to admit I do not.
She was the first woman to announce baseball, right? On
for ESPN.
TV, for ESPN. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, and a couple years ago.
Big brouhaha, but she is golden. She knows her stuff. She's now like top billing. And then I think I just saw this week, unless it was the drugs I was on and I was dreaming, there is a new play-by-play female announcer for.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember.
Is it baseball or basketball? Somebody help us out.
Gosh, I don't remember.
It just happened this week. A female head. She's the play-by-play caller. She just got the job. So things are moving. Things are happening. Things are happening. All right, so let's get into baseball.
All right, let's get it. Hey.
So what do you got, brother? What do we got?
Well, we're less than 2 weeks away from the end of the season. Okay. Where things are heating up as far as division races are concerned and winning a division. There are only two competitive divisions left in Major League Baseball. They're both in the National League. It's the Giants and the Dodgers in the National League West, where two best records in baseball between the two teams. The Dodgers were obviously a favorite coming into the season after winning the World Series last year.
Yep.
So they've been the favorite, but then, the San Francisco Giants, who were really going to be considered to be a middle of the pack or bottom of the division team, they've been leading the West for the majority of the season. So they're still one game ahead of the Dodgers as of today. And in the National League East, the Braves are 3 games ahead of the Phillies. So those are the only two division races that are that are still competitive and to keep an eye on. Everything's heating up really in the wild card races in the American League. And you're talking about your American League East teams. The Tampa Bay Rays are obviously atop of the American League East, and the Red Sox and the Yankees, the Red Sox, Yankees, and the Blue Jays are all within 2 games of each other for the first and second wild card spot. So, at this point, it's really about remaining schedule, who's playing who, and who's hot. And that's the thing with baseball. I mean, with baseball, when you get to the end of the year, it's about who's hot. Right. And if you see, yeah, I see that. You have wild card teams that actually will win the World Series.
Right, because they get hot at the right time.
Because they get hot at the right time. They have good pitching, and and they just kind of. I mean, you saw the Nationals a couple years ago walk through the playoffs and win the World Series, and nobody expected them to do that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as far as the wild card goes, and the National League West division race. That's really where everything's going on.
What about the awards?
Well, I'm going to shout out the Twins here, because I don't know if you gentlemen know, but our very own Brandon he tried out for the Twins.
Really?
Great.
Brandon was an amazing baseball player. I mean, he's out of it a little bit now, but yeah, I always like to point that out because he's very savvy in the baseball knowledge as well. And so he doesn't often get to tune into our show, but it's fortunate tonight that he is able to.
So who do you think's going to? So Brandon, who do you think's going to win it all?
Well, tell Brandon that Adrian played at Nova, and that's how we met our freshman year. So that's why he's my guy I'm bringing off the bench. So these guys should have a lot to talk about. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, I think what's going to be interesting. When you get down to the final 10 to 12 games, and there's only 2.5 games. So in the American League, the wild card, there are actually 5 teams that are still in play. You've got the Red Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays, A's, and the Mariners. The Mariners and the A's are both within 2.5 games of the second wild card spot. So at that point, you're taking a look at the schedule. Okay, who's playing who, and for them, it's kind of interesting because the A's and the Mariners, they have 5 games head to head in this last 10 to 12 games. But where the Mariners may have the advantage is the A's have 6 games left with the division leading Astros. So you start looking at strength of schedule. You start looking at how they're playing, who's hot and who's not, and that's really where you start to find it. But both of them are still behind the Red Sox, Yankees, and the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox and the Yankees go head to head this weekend. So the Yankees are 2 games behind the Red Sox for the first wild card spot, and then the Yankees have to go into Fenway this weekend for a 3-game set.
Oh, so the ratings are going to be high on that.
Oh yeah,
because these are must wins, right? These are must wins.
Yeah, these will be national TV games this weekend for the Yankees and the Red Sox.
So of course, I'm from New York. That's the classic rivalry here, the Boston, and I like that rivalry. I actually am one of the few people I like both teams for different reasons. And Tim's chiming in, and he's saying the Mariners just have angles, and he must mean the Angels and A's.
Angels and the A's. Yep.
All they need is Boston and New York to lose.
Yeah, the trouble with that is you have 3 teams, Red Sox, Yankees, and the Blue Jays, that are within 2 games of each other. The Yankees and the Blue Jays are even right now. So really, I see the Yankees just took the lead over Texas. So the Yankees will actually be a half a game ahead of the Blue Jays after tonight, because the Blue Jays lost to the Rays, earlier this afternoon. So I think it's going to be tough for the A's and the Mariners to get there because the Blue Jays, they have 4 games with the Twins, and they have 3 games with the Major League's worst team, the Baltimore Orioles. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because there are a lot of teams in the mix for that AL wild card.
Well, thank you for educating me because I get to send a text message to my man Dave Sims from the Seattle Mariners play-by-play, and I get to tell him he's out and he can come home to Philly early.
I don't think you want to call him and tell him that yet.
Because he's from Philly. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You're already recovering from one injury, Bodine. Take it easy. Take it easy. You don't want to start any fights.
Well, good. So we'll next week we'll be able to narrow this down, and then when will they start announcing the winners of like the what do you call it, the Cy Young and that'll come, gets all that stuff.
Yeah, that'll come later during the playoffs.
Before we switch to football, because that's going to take up the rest of our time. Who do you think should get the MVP? That pitcher, hitter, what's his name?
Well, Shohei Ohtani, I think most people think is a shoo-in because he, a pitcher and a hitter, had great years on both sides. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say Vlad Guerrero Jr.
He's crushing it too.
He at the last I looked, he was tied for the league in home runs with 46. And he's a master. I mean, he's a great hitter, hits for power and hits for average. But I think it's been decided already that it's going to be Ohtani probably, because
we haven't seen anything like him since Babe Ruth, right?
No,
is that right?
No, I mean, and Babe Ruth didn't even do this,
right?
I mean, Babe Ruth when he got to the Yankees, I mean, he was pretty much done pitching. And at a certain point, he stopped, and he was just a hitter.
We got a lot of people. Brandon saying AL will be co-MVP Ohtani and Val, and Justin's agreeing. He thinks Vladdy Jr. is going to be the MVP.
Will they do co-MVPs? Is that possible?
I mean, I guess they could. I don't see it happening though.
Okay,
but they could. I mean, and it would be deserved.
So Brandon and Tim are both pointing out that the Red Sox are wearing yellow jerseys tonight in honor of the Boston Marathon explosion, Boston Strong. So we certainly want to acknowledge that, of course. And
I think they've been doing that for a couple of days, haven't they?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was watching the Yankee game earlier, and they commented on it and commented on how they continued to wear them because they were winning, and so they weren't going to take them off.
Because us athletes are definitely superstitious. We are creatures of habit. If something's working, we ain't changing it.
That's true. So we'll see come Friday. We'll see come Friday when the Yanks come to town if they're still wearing them, because they're winning. Because the Red Sox are winning tonight as well. They're beating the Mets pretty bad.
Nice.
All right, so perfect. So that's a great. What's do we have? When is the World Series? I mean, what is the date range in October? That's going to be an exciting time. Is that the
end of October into November?
All right, so great. That's something to look forward to. It's going to be an exciting month, and then the world of the MLB. I can't wait for the rivalry to see how the rivalry shakes out here in the East.
We'll know more next week, no doubt.
Yep. Perfect. All right, it's NFL time.
All right, so we're not going to get a word in edgewise now, Adrian. So if you want to say anything, say it quick.
Let's get it.
You go ahead and start, Joe.
All right, I'll start. So what do you think about Aaron Rodgers this week? I thought that was this is now. Let me back it up. I'm going to tell you this. I have come in first in my division in the fantasy football 2 weeks in a row, week 1 and 2.
Woohoo! There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah.
So I'll start like that.
Is that beginner's luck, or do you actually know what you're doing?
Hey, she's no ordinary Joe. She knows what she's doing.
So there was a little bit of beginner's luck, but I was smart and savvy enough to pick Tom Brady and Gronk, and that was not luck.
Boom.
That was by choice. And George helped me with some of my other picks behind the scenes. But yeah, I think that really is what propelled me to win certainly the first week. And yeah, so that's good. That was an exciting thing for me. The guys are all saying it's beginner's luck, but I think they're not caring for it too much. So I'll go with them riding the wave of it. But then what about so there were there have been so many impressive games, I think. We got to catch up a little bit on week 1, but I thought that that Patriots game, the opening night, was phenomenal. Oh. And I thought the Packers game this week, Aaron Rodgers was phenomenal. That was a great come from behind victory. I mean, those are probably the two most notable games for me. And I also, I always root for the underdog. I loved watching. I have watching football much more often, of course, than I've ever have. And just to see Mac Jones's first touchdown pass. So now I'm going to be a lifelong Mac Jones fan, barring some scandal.
My hometown quarterback, from Jayville. So look like he's going to have a better career than Tim Tebow. So that works out. We lose one, we gain one. That works out perfect.
So, all right. So those are my big things. I think that I loved how, I don't necessarily know if I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but I don't like when trolls were counting him out and speaking about his mental health and attitude. And he came out after the game and kind of called them out and said, I don't know why anybody would be trying to tell me what my state was.
Who is that? Who are you talking about, Joe?
I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. You see how he was,
Aaron, listen, Aaron is playing head games with the media. He knows what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. So he's just playing. That's how he's motivating himself. He knew the team was flat in the locker room. He said it. The team was flat in the locker room. They came out and played flat. And guess what? They got their butts handed to them because Jameis had something to prove because it was his first game starting, right? So he came out, had energy and motivation. Green Bay had no energy or motivation. But then look what happened this week. The Saints got blown out, and Aaron is Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. So that's just the way that, and there's 17 games. As he would say in the past, relax. I got this. So yeah, I'm not worried about Green Bay.
So I want to bring this comment up. Tim Fielders, he's stationed on the East Coast for a short period of time, and he was in your territory, and he went to a Philly bar during an Eagles game in his Panthers gear.
No, you didn't. Don't do it, Tim. Don't do it. No, don't do it. Yeah. Right? Adrian, you remember?
Oh, yeah.
You from Jersey.
No. You don't do it.
PA. Don't do it.
Nothing worse than an Eagles fan.
Don't do it. Let me apologize, Tim, on behalf of the people who are good people in the tri-state area. I apologize, but don't ever do that again. No, I feel for you, brother. I feel for you. Oh, I'm getting right. Hey, I'm like, I got memories of seeing stuff that back in the old the old football stadium.
Yeah,
they had a jail cell in the stadium.
Absolutely.
Because of the 700 level, that's where all the fights started.
Two organizations, the Eagles and the Raiders. And the Raiders may change now that they're in Vegas, but those were the two places that you don't go there and wear your jersey.
No,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't care how many guys you got with you. Don't do it. Woo. I apologize. Oh, I hope you're okay, Tim. I hope you're okay.
I think he's going to live to tell another tale. So he probably had his He had to probably he might have to bring in some more of the 4 branches of the military to back him up. Luckily he had some protection.
Ooh, yeah, that'll give you nightmares. Woo, yeah. So he learned something. He's gonna move on. It'll be a story he can tell his family and kids and friends for the rest of his life. Because you don't forget what happens when you come to Philly wearing someone else's jersey. Don't do it. Yeah.
All right.
So what's next?
He's saying he's in New Jersey, and that gives him nightmares too. So yeah, you don't play on the East Coast, Tim. I told him that.
That's right.
New Jersey is if you come to Philly and New Jersey is just over the what's the Schuylkill River? Yeah. Jersey is our stepbrother. They're just as bad.
Yeah,
Delaware is like the little sister. Delaware is a little mild.
You can go to Delaware.
You can go to Delaware, but Philly and Jersey, don't do it.
Brandon's saying Santa Claus doesn't even go to Philly.
Not anymore. He doesn't. Not anymore. You can't catch Santa around here. No.
All right. So we better get into it. It's already 10:30. Take it away.
Okay.
Where you want to go?
Well, I mean, that game, that Bucks
Cowboys
Dallas game was absolutely incredible, right? It was incredible because we didn't know what Zach was going to do. They were missing their top offensive lineman, and it just showed that Dallas may not necessarily be the dumpster fire that they have been for the past 20 years. They may actually have a quarterback who's a leader, who can rally the troops and get something done. And they proved that the following week by winning their second game. So you run into a buzzsaw of the Tampa Bay. And here's the thing, and Adrian said this earlier. If we really think about last season, Tampa wasn't outstanding the entire season. They got hot at the end of the year, right? They got hot at the end of the year. Remember, they were having issues with their wide receivers, right? Brown, who was coming off suspension, right? Gronk wasn't fully in shape yet, right? Tom hadn't captured that chemistry with the offensive coordinator and all the other things. So they, in the beginning of the year, I think they were like 500. And then right at the middle of the season, they got hot. And then they just, as you said, you get hot at the end of the year, boom, you keep it rolling, and then you win the Super Bowl. So there could be another episode or another team like that. I don't think Tampa is winning the Super Bowl this year because the bullseye's on their back and their front, right? Teams are going to come out and say, we got to give it everything because it's a measuring stick of where you are as a program when you play Tampa. So Tampa may have a lot of games on primetime TV this year, which also gives guys a reason to step up their game because the camera don't lie, right? The camera sees everything. So if you're under contract, you're getting close to the end of your contract, you may think your team may not offer you an extension. You want to play your best so the next one of the other teams out there can see, hey, he stepped up against the former champs. So it's going to be tough for them to win.
Well, think about that. Yeah, think about that game. I mean, the Dallas kicker, really, had he been on point, they may not have won that game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he was coming off an injury, so he didn't kick all preseason.
Right. So he wasn't 100%. Yeah. Right. He wasn't 100%. But guess what he did? He turns around and he kicks a good one, and they win the second game.
Yeah.
True.
Cowboys are going to have to be reckoned with this year.
No. And remember, we forget they only had 3 preseason games. And those 3 games, no starters played. Right? Mm-hmm. So really, teams are just getting their legs under them. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, I forgot to mention something about the Packers game that I want to bring up. What about Aaron Jones? I mean, that was impressive. 4 touchdowns in one game. They said it was his first time back to Lambeau Stadium without his father. He lost his father to COVID. I thought that
Yep.
I just, I love those stories. So now I'm going to be an Aaron Jones fan again, barring any major controversies. But I love that story. I think I loved how after every touchdown he jumped into the stands and let the fans take selfies with him. I found him to be a really endearing character from what I know of him, and I think that chemistry between he and Aaron Rodgers really, it's almost a Tom Brady Gronk situation. They really seem to mesh well together.
That's why I said that Aaron Rodgers knows what he has and knows what he can do. And that's why and people forget, Aaron Rodgers probably has a very high IQ, right?
There's no doubt.
He has a high IQ, and it comes off as arrogant, and I'm okay with it, because when you know who you are, it's okay to be who you are. So some people may not like it. I'm absolutely okay with it, because if I had a quarterback like that, I would I'd be his bodyguard.
Well, for me, my problem with Aaron Rodgers' arrogance is that his arrogance turns into something more. I can count the number of times that I've seen him make a throw, someone drops a pass, and it's written and he's wearing it on his sleeve. And he's making his player look bad.
Right,
and that's the part of Aaron Rodgers that I don't like.
Tom doesn't
obviously
do that. Right.
Yeah, you're playing sports, you have to have an ego in order to be good. It has to happen.
Yeah.
But when it turns into something else, then that's when I could do without it. But,
and guess what? The camera people know it. That's why they keep showing it.
Yep.
If you don't give them a reason to show it, they won't show it. That's why Tom Brady doesn't do it, because he knows the camera's on him at all times. So yes, I get it.
He's different though. You'll see Tom Brady blowing up on the sideline on somebody.
That's different. That's different, right?
Yep.
That's different. He's doing it on the sideline where guys are there, and he's using that energy to motivate the guys versus trying to the way it's perceived with Aaron.
Absolutely.
It's negative energy, right? And you just don't want to do it. Right. No, I got you.
I like too when Tom Brady, the offensive coordinator or whomever, called the play out, and he visibly is shaking his head no on the field that he wasn't going to make that play, and there was a big commentary. I think it was one of the final plays of that game. They're like, Tom's telling the sideline coaches, no, he's not going to do that play, and he's doing something on his own. So he's really, his dominance in the entire organization is just so prevalent.
Well, the offensive coordinator, here's the backstory, Joe. The offensive coordinator used to be a quarterback in the league, and they have a great relationship. And I'm sure they've talked about, hey, if I call a play and you don't think it's the right play, shake me off. Because he, as the offensive coordinator and being a former quarterback, right, he knows what is happening on the field. He can see the personnel, and he can also feel the huddle of his guys, right? So he knows that's what the quarterback's job is, to know what your other guys are capable of doing, what they're able to do, and he knows. So no, and come on, you can't knock him. How long has he been in the league? 25 years?
25 years.
He knows what he's doing. So no, it's okay to shake your offensive coordinator off. And I'm pretty sure Justin or some of our guests know who the offensive coordinator is for Tampa Bay. He was the there we go, Brian Leftwich. There you go. You remember him, Adrian?
Oh yeah, Marshall.
He played for Jacksonville, I believe. He played for my hometown Jaguars. He was okay. He wasn't awesome, but he was okay as a quarterback.
Well, Byron was a big quarterback,
dude.
big body. Big body quarterback, big arm.
Yes. Yep.
he was a decent quarterback. I think the difference with Tampa Bay this year offensively is going to be they are now comfortable with Tom Brady, and I think they are now running the offense more like Tom Brady likes. They have the scheme, and he can throw the deep ball, but he does a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of seam stuff. You see that Gronk is more involved this year in the offense. So I think they're just more comfortable with Brady and what he does and what he likes to do. And I think he has more say in it now as well.
Justin saying he believes Tom Brady is going to be 20-0.
I don't know about that.
No, that ain't going to happen.
And on the flip side, Brandon's saying that the Vikings speaking of dumpster fires, the Vikings are going to be a dumpster fire, and Brandon's a huge Vikings fan. So,
Brandon, I feel for you. The Vikings are who we thought they were. They've got that quarterback who came from Washington, and he just can't seem to get over the hump. He's going to win some games that they should lose, but they're going to lose some games that they should win. I just don't see the Vikings getting – if they make it to the playoffs, I don't see them doing anything because it's just – you could just see it. Some teams, you just see it. They don't have it. And it's a shame because they're paying that quarterback a lot of money. And he's actually a good guy, but it's just something about him. He can't get over the hump. Right?
Well, he's a decent quarterback, but he's not that top level quarterback, and he's getting paid that top level quarterback money.
Yes, he is.
And there's nothing they can do with him right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim's calling us out. Bo.
He's calling me out.
Us. Now that's funny. And Tim's saying playoffs. We're talking about the playoffs. It is a little premature. I'll agree with him.
Little Jim Mora there.
Yeah.
Playoffs.
Yeah. So, but I like what Oakland's doing. I like what the Raiders are doing. They're looking good. Yes, they are. So let's see how far Chucky can take that team. And you're right. What was it? I went to the Eat when McNabb was the quarterback. It was either 2010. It had to be 2010. I got tickets to the Raiders-Eagles game in Oakland, and I flew out just for the weekend. And the Eagles were winning. And I'm telling you, I'd never, I grew up in Jacksonville for the Florida-Georgia game. You're talking about a big crowd, right? I've been to a Penn State game, 80,000. I've never heard anything like it in my life when I was in that stadium. That crowd, and I was just above the black hole, and that crowd willed that team to come back and beat the Eagles. And everybody had their faces painted, the costumes. It was absolutely amazing. So, I was always a Raiders fan, right? Even as a kid, I was a Raiders fan. They weren't my number one team, but they, because they had more black players on their team than any other NFL team, right?
That's true.
And so, but yeah, I like the Raiders. I like what they're doing. Put it this way, it's always good to have the Raiders in the conversation, just like it's good to have the Cowboys, even though we may not like the Cowboys. It's good to have them in the conversation.
And Tim saying the Raiders offense was top 10 in all categories last year. The defense is horrible and still Carr's fault.
Well, their defense is playing better this year.
Playing better. Yep.
And well, you know what? Let me take that back because the Steelers' offense is non-existent right now.
They got problems.
But I'll say this: I mean, Derek Carr, I put him in the same category as Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. Two really, really good quarterbacks that nobody wants to give credit to.
Right.
As to how good they really are.
Right. And part of the reason nobody wants to give Derek Carr the respect is because of his brother. They won't let his brother go, right? And it's not his fault that his brother wasn't good, right? They're holding it against him. Yep. So he's not his brother. So they need to let that go. And I think he can prove it. If he can get them to the playoffs, that'll be a huge step. Huge step. So I'm rooting for him. But in that game, how about a topic that we should not be talking about, that should not be on the table? Carl Nassib, the guy who came out as gay during the summer, he had the winning sack and caused the fumble. And why is that important? It's important because we can now let it go, not have the conversation that a guy who's gay in the NFL, who's an active player, can fit into the locker room, can play ball, and be effective, and nobody needs to talk about it because it's not a big deal. And have we heard anything after that night?
I didn't hear. You're the first one I'm hearing it from.
That's my point. So I think we're progressing. We're making progress in that area. And that's a good thing. And that's why I brought it up, because somebody needed to prove that they can be in the locker room and play and be effective. And so people can say, okay, it's not a big deal, because it's really not a big deal. I'm pretty sure I played with at least one, maybe two guys on my team that were gay. I didn't ask. It wasn't a big deal. I think sometimes the media makes it a big deal, and maybe some people out in the general population makes it a big deal. But for players, not a big deal. They just want to win. If you can help the team win, who cares? And I think we're getting there.
The only thing I heard about it is that he actually came out and he did an interview and saying that he really wanted to let other young people know and be aware that there's no shame in living who you are and speaking your truth proudly. So I was really inspired by that. And yeah, I'd love to see that on the field. I thought he was impressive, and it was a great moment. It was a great moment.
That's because football is the ultimate macho sport, right? So, and you can prove that it works, right? If everybody has a common goal and we're working towards that goal and you can do your job, most players on any level, most players don't leave the locker room and hang together anyway. Sure, there could be some small pockets, but most people go their separate ways when they walk out the locker room. And I'm sure on the pro level, most guys are going home because they're tired, they're beat up. Some are married, some are single, whatever. They got things to do. So it doesn't matter what people do, right? That's their own mind your own beeswax. Boom. Keep it moving.
Well, here's someone who's getting right into your business. He wants to know if you're drinking champagne tonight. That's his Sunday drink. Bo, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Wawa brand blueberry iced tea. And shout out to the Emmys that happened on Sunday night. A Villanova grad who was nominated for 16 Emmys.
Mayor of Easttown.
Won at least 3 with Kate Winslet and a few others. Brad Inglesby. He's actually in the same Villanova magazine issue that I'm in. So shout out to our Villanova guy for winning some nice awards.
All right, so he
put Wawa. He put Wawa on the map because Wawa was in, some of the episodes. So that's why I was.
Yeah, so Tim saying he learned about Wawa, now he's a fan, and I actually learned about Wawa this summer too. So yeah, we might. Well,
that's that regional thing there.
It's now in Florida, so now it's up and down the coast because they have a few. If you drive up and down 95, there's a few at a couple of rest stops. So they're making their headway.
They're not New York, but if I travel along the East Coast, I stumble upon one or two.
Yeah, that's a tougher market to break into. That's a tougher market to break into. Yeah.
All right, so we're down to the final 10. What else we have to? We want to talk about this week's games? Are we just going to concentrate on the past? Are we going to look into the future? Are we making any predictions?
Oh, well, what do we got for this week's games? I don't have my sports section. Anybody got the sports section in front of them?
Let's see what we have.
Who's playing this week? Can you pull it up?
Chargers Chiefs will be a good one.
That's going to be a good one because the Chargers just came off a loss.
Yeah.
The Rams versus Bucks. Justin.
Well, that's the big game. Rams Bucks is the big game.
Oh, that's the big game. Yep.
Oh yeah, and that'll be great to see. What
time
got
is
Matthews,
that game?
I'm sure it's a 4:00.
It's got to be
4:25.
That's a primetime game. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you got Matthew Stafford over there with the Rams, about to take on Tom Brady, and everybody wants to say how Matthew Stafford's no good because he played in sorry Detroit and want to blame it all on him. But the Rams have been looking good.
No, we'll see. That's going to be a good game. Yep. What's next?
The Niners and the Packers.
Well, Eagles Cowboys Monday night.
That is true. That is true. Yep. I forgot about it. See, I have an event in Jersey the next day, so that's why I keep forgetting about it because I'm thinking about my event. But yeah, I'll watch that. Yeah. What'd you say? Joe? You said 49ers and who?
The Packers and 49ers. I think that's Sunday night.
That's a rivalry game. Absolutely.
Game.
Watch that. Mm-hmm. What's next? Any others?
The Seahawks versus the Vikings, Brandon's pointing out. Texans and the Panthers are tomorrow night.
Panthers, they're 2-0. They could be 3-0. Yeah. And I think the Panthers got the quarterback that came from New York. So
that's an interesting story. Sam Darnold leads the Jets, and now Wilson is now taking Darnold's lumps, and Darnold looks great down in Carolina. So Jets fans are
they're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
Yep.
And they're going against the Broncos, and I don't think that may not be much of a matchup.
No, Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback for the Broncos, and he's having a good year, so he's probably going to continue. Go ahead.
So Tim Fielder's in New Jersey. He's calling out, Bo, let's get together and watch the game on Monday night. We got a coast to coast. He's all up on the West Coast. He's out here. We've been trying to hook up, but yeah. So he promises he won't wear his jersey, Bodine.
Well, that's a good thing. All right. Probably won't be able to do it, but I'll take a rain check on that one.
Justin's pointed out this comment numerous times, and I found it interesting too, so I'm going to bring it up. Okay. He's saying, did you see the article about Boomer Esiason? Said Mac Jones would have been the number one pick if he was, and then we redrafted the NFL right now. Potentially. Yeah, that may be a true statement.
Nope, Boomer Esiason lost his mind.
No, I wouldn't agree with that either.
Boomer Esiason has lost his mind. Boomer Esiason is good for saying stuff to rile people up. Trevor Lawrence? Yep. He will always, no matter what, would have been the number one draft pick, period. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. His college career was that much higher or better outstanding than Mike. And again, I like Mac, right? He's from a hometown. He was playing for Alabama. You can't go wrong with Alabama if you're a good quarterback, right? So, no. Boomer's lost his mind.
And Justin is so biased to the New England teams that he's going to side with anybody. He's saying Mac Jones is better than Trevor, but and he agrees with Boomer. So
that's okay. That's okay, Justin. We're all right.
There's not something to be said for loyalty, Justin. That's why you love us. So you're loyal to us. So we're all for it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what should we be watching. Of course, you're going to tell me watching everything. So
well, listen, I got the red zone. I got the sports package, so I'm not missing one touchdown. We went went from 66 touchdowns the first weekend to 86 the second weekend. So offense is putting up numbers. As we get closer towards the middle of the season, that's when defenses will tighten up, right? And then the closer we get to the playoffs, we'll know which defense and offense is good enough to compete in the playoffs to win the Super Bowl. And that's basically how it's going to work out.
See how many starting quarterbacks are still playing at that time. We've had a rash of injuries in these first couple weeks for starting quarterbacks. So that'll be interesting to
see. They released that today. He's out for Sunday's game. He has some cracked ribs. So that's a big loss for Miami.
How about our former quarterback who's at the Colts with 2 sprained ankles?
Two sprained ankles for Carson Wentz. Yep.
Oh, can you imagine if he'd have still been here with 2 sprained ankles, what this crowd would have been like? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. That is crazy. 2 sprained ankles. How do you get to the training room if you got 2 sprained ankles? I'm like, really? How do you get to the training room? I mean, I like Carson Wentz. I just think he just outwore his welcome here. It just wasn't a good fit. So it's a shame.
Well, don't quarterbacks have that special treatment? They probably have one of those, what are those buggies called that they have in Central Park in New York? Don't they usher them off the field in those horse-drawn carriages?
Hey, listen, we definitely need quarterbacks to stay upright because that's what makes this league exciting and watchable, so we can continue to watch towards the end of the season, right? If we get a bunch of quarterbacks going down, it's going to be some horrible football. So
Brandon saying Wentz's problem is he can't stay on the field.
Yeah. And then let's switch to the NBA. How about our second star player saying he doesn't want to play for the Sixers, causing chaos here in Philadelphia? It's
Ben Simmons?
Yeah, he doesn't want to play. He's not going to report to camp.
They don't want him to play either. They just can't get rid of him.
And it's his fault because he doesn't want to shoot a jumper. Dude, work on your shot. How can you go to the Hall of Fame or have the chance to go to the Hall of Fame if your game isn't well-rounded? Come on. That just makes no sense. It really doesn't.
I forget what playoff game I was watching last year, but there was one playoff game where I actually posted what is Ben Simmons doing because he was passing up layups.
Yeah,
uncontested layups. He was.
I know exactly which play you're talking about. He was basically closest to the basket, and instead of taking the shot, he passed it to the 2 guard, and the 2 guard had 2 guys on him, and they fouled him.
And he was uncontested. What? Yeah, there was nobody there. Yep.
Believe me, I remember the play. This is crazy. So, if you think wearing a different team jersey in Philadelphia causes chaos, imagine how they're ripping that kid on radio right now.
And Brendan's saying there's a rumor that the Wolves want to bring Simmons in.
Well, if they want to help take that contract we gave him away, hey, why not? But I think he's going to sit it out and try to get to LA because remember he bought a house in LA.
All right. So Justin's reminding us he has the Kardashian curse. He's dating one of the Kardashians.
He bought a house in LA. He bought a house in LA. I'm telling you, he bought a house in LA. That should have been a sign right there that he didn't want to play here anymore. He bought a house in LA.
What is it with the Kardashians?
I never got it. I've never watched the program. I have no idea. I don't know. Help us out, Joe. What is it? What is it with the Kardashians?
Well, well, they do have, they have some They have some attractive features. I will say that.
Okay.
And I think that they're just publicity magnets. Think about it. I mean, you have these stars. As soon as no publicity is good. What is that saying? No publicity is bad publicity, or even bad publicity is good publicity.
Bad publicity is good publicity. Right.
So that's it. So we got Ben Simmons. He's going to go out there, get on the reality show, and they'll make their money somewhere.
Ruin his career. The guy could be a Hall of Famer if he just had a jump shot. Work on your jump shot. That's all.
He's working on a Kardashian. He doesn't need to work on it.
You said that and we didn't. Thank you very much. It's time to get off the air on that one. Woo-hoo!
All right. So great show. Thanks for joining us, Adrian. It just sort of gave us a little good mix, a good mixture.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, keep the stats on the baseball because we're going to need it. We're getting close, so.
Getting close. And
we appreciate the help. Thank you, sir.
No, got you covered. Thank you.
And of course, thank you, Bo. And my life is complete again. You're back. You're on screen. I can finally get a good night's rest tonight. I've been so worried about you. I'll be able to sleep comfortably.
Thanks, sis. I appreciate it. It's all good. I'm going to be all right. Thank you very much.
And of course, I always thank the man behind the scenes. That's always my closing line. So Chris, the magical man behind the pictures, the wizard. You're like the wizard in the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. So we appreciate your production skills and thanks. And you can play us out, Chris. And we'll see everybody next week.
See everybody next week. Yep.